first part of our show tonight. In the second part, we draw attention to another African country, Togoland, which is next to Ghana. And Togo has come up for attention all over the world with what is described as political unrest. Foreign Asingbe is in the seat in Togo as the president, but in terms of the number of years, it's half a century now that he and his family, beginning with his father, have been ruling Togoland. There's been disturbances in Togo about this matter. In Ghana, Mornah, who is the chairman of the PNC, one of the leading political parties in Ghana, organized the demonstration, or should I say attempted to organize a demonstration. The police were unhappy with his conduct. He got arrested, but he and his compatriots are threatening that they would actually proceed with that demonstration at the weekend anyway. He was in the studio to talk to us about these matters. Also with Mornah, we'll be talking about what happened in the High Court today. The High Court has now passed, the High Court has given a ruling which determines that there's now a compulsory instruction on the Electoral Commission to implement the Representation of People's Amendment Act, ROPA. Now, that law will allow Ghanaians abroad to vote for presidential elections. We are not sure whether they'll vote parliamentary yet. It was controversial because it was thought when it was passed in 2006 that the ruling New Patriotic Party of the day were passing the law so that most of their people who lived abroad, particularly in Europe and now in Asia as well, will be voting for the MPP, and it was estimated that at least 500,000 votes will come in that way for the MPP, and that could almost always determine that the MPP will win every presidential election. So it was unpalatable to the NDC at the time. The NDC came into power in 2009. The bill was not repealed. And now a High Court has said that it's time to implement that. Mornah, again, was one of those who demonstrated against the bill back in the day and got arrested. So we'll talk to him about that. So that's something like a full package for Good Evening Ghana tonight. I would like to begin with the announcement, the evidence that Mr. Ramaphosa is now the new leader of the ANC. Here's the announcement.
Comrade Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma received 2261 votes, and Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa received 2440 votes. We declare Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa as the new president of the African National Congress. May I request Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa to come to the stage, please?
So that was the announcement that Cyril Ramaphosa has been elected. It was quite a narrow margin, and guess who he competed against? He competed against the ex-wife of the sitting president, Jacob Zuma. If you are just joining us, you're live on Good Evening Ghana, and we are talking now about South Africa. We are about to show you a Skype interview that I had with a South African journalist earlier today. Later on, Mornah is in the studio to talk about Togoland, his concerns about Togoland, and also about the High Court decision that the Representation of the People's Amendment Act should now be implemented by the Electoral Commission. That will mean Ghanaians abroad will now have the right to vote for a presidential candidate in the next election in 2020. So that's coming up. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. But I'm sure you enjoyed this Skype interview. It was around 3 o'clock this afternoon when we called her up in her busy schedule. And I have to say a big thank you to Dr. H.A. Sikanku of Class FM, who actually arranged this interview for us. And we conducted a live Skype interview. Here it is with Frances, the journalist.
Hi, it's Frances. How's it?
Sorry, we took too much of your time. Okay, so we go straight to the point.
Sorry, I'm trying to accommodate you. I've just got to go on air, but if we can do it in
very quickly,
go now, that's fine.
Okay, so I'm starting right away. Okay, so hello Tigan, thank you very much for your time. And we know a lot has been happening in South Africa, and you, the media, have been covering it all the time. So where are we? What does it mean to say that Cyril Ramaphosa is the president of the African National Congress, but not president of the country? What does it mean?
So what it means is we effectively have two centers of power, which is something that the ANC has been concerned about in the past. But because of the way it's set up, President Jacob Zuma is president of the country until 2019, when we have national elections. But the ANC has its own rhythms, and it traditionally holds these huge conferences where all the branch delegates from across the country come together every 5 years. And every 10 years, a whole new leadership is elected. It's called the top six, the deputy, the president, the deputy president, and 4 other candidates. And this was the time to elect those leaders. So we have a new president of the ANC, Cyril Ramaphosa, but President Jacob Zuma remains president of the country. The question now is, will Cyril Ramaphosa put up with that, given that they are seen to be politically diametrically opposed? Maybe Cyril Ramaphosa, as president of the party, will try and organize a recall of President Jacob Zuma from his position as head of the country, which has in fact happened before. President Adom-Otchere, after losing the ANC presidency, was put under pressure to resign, and he did the following year. So it's a wait and see how this will play out right now.
That's interesting. That by what constitutional authority can Cyril Ramaphosa recall President Zuma from the presidency? So here in Ghana and other parts of the world, we will call Ramaphosa the presidential candidate or the ANC's nominee for the elections of 2019. Is that correct?
That is correct, because we don't vote, I don't know how it is in Ghana, but we don't vote directly for a president. We vote for a party, and then the party itself chooses who will be its president. That's why President Jacob Zuma is president of the country, but he's not directly elected. He serves at the behest of the ANC. So the ANC itself could recall him from that post and put Cyril Ramaphosa there. Cyril Ramaphosa could not do it as an individual. He would have to rally the support of the highest decision-making body of the ANC, which is the National Executive Committee, which is quite a large body, but they would have to be the ones to vote and say, yes, President Jacob Zuma is recalled, or seemingly, if he knew it was going that way, he would resign anyway.
So that means you are closer to the British political system, isn't it? Where the British also vote for a party, actually, and the leader of the party then becomes the prime minister. That's the kind of situation that you have in South Africa, I think.
Exactly. It's an indirect system, so we don't directly vote for any of the top officials.
So where does that leave the whole South African political quagmire? There are different aspects of the South African political narrative. There's, of course, Julius Malema, who was formerly a member of the African National Congress. There is also the Jacob Zuma faction, who are the more socialist, if you like, of the African National Congress. There's Cyril Ramaphosa now, who has transcended from a union leader to a business conglomerates of sorts, having led big businesses in the past, the telecom giant MTN, and also Lonmin, the mining giant. And also the unresolved question of black empowerment in South Africa. A lot of black people are still very poor in South Africa. Where does this election leave all of these various aspects of South African social, political, and economic life?
Well, Paul, let me start with business. Business is extremely happy that Cyril Ramaphosa has come in. Global investors are happy. We saw the rand, our currency, rally quite significantly in the days leading up to the election of Cyril Ramaphosa, just on the speculation that he would come in the top spot. He is seen as the darling of investors because investors have been complaining that South Africa has been chopping and changing policy. They can't make long-term decisions, and that's discouraging foreign investors from coming here, even discouraging local investors from expanding their businesses because they don't know where we're going. We've also seen under President Jacob Zuma huge amounts of cabinet reshuffles. So at one stage we had 3 finance ministers over a period of days, and you can't get stable policy under those conditions, would be the business view. Now, like you say, there are all these other dimensions. Labor is one, and I can tell you that this shows the paradox of South African politics, that Cyril Ramaphosa is trying to court COSATU, the trade union federation that is part of the tripartite alliance that has fallen out with President Jacob Zuma. So he's trying to get labor back on board and set up this traditional structure where Labour and the ANC rules together. We'll see how successful he is on that. Then you brought up some other important points, the need for transformation, the need for black people to be involved when a lot of companies, big companies, are still seen to be controlled by white people in top management, or at least in the ownership structure. And he's come under fire for not being on board with transformation, for being one of the black elites that doesn't want to share the spoils. I think this will be tested because it's good business in South Africa to care about transformation, given those societal pushes for transformation. So this is something that he will be tested on. His track record maybe suggests that he's too close to business, according to his detractors, but we'll have to wait and see. Certainly those pressures are there, and he will have to respond to them and respond to the fact that there's huge inequality, and black people are often the ones on the poorer side of the spectrum not benefiting from education right now. Our metrics around education, etc., are very poor.
What about Julius Malema?
Julius Malema, he pushes for more radical transformational policies, and he's had a field day with that. It's interesting that President Jacob Zuma, at this national elective conference that's being held, suggested that Julius Malema, actually, even in the name of his party, the Economic Freedom Fighters, he picked it up from the ANC itself, from their phrase radical economic transformation, which has become more and more spoken about, these radical economic transformational policies. What are they? Are they causing confusion? Are they detracting investors? But certainly the ANC has been talking about it a lot. President Jacob Zuma suggested that this was well on the agenda when Julius Malema left the party. That's up for debate. I guess Julius Malema could maybe utilize the fact that Cyril Ramaphosa is seen to be close to business and say, he's the sellout, come and follow us, because we are the real transformers. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out.
Would you say that Cyril Ramaphosa is a Mandela sort of person, because the ANC's recent 20 years of politics has been defined by the philosophy of Nelson Mandela, which has really been a philosophy of reconciliation, but also a philosophy of black empowerment. It was thought widely by political analysts that Jacob Zuma would not have been Nelson Mandela's real choice, that he may have wanted either Cyril or Tokyo sexually, or even in an extreme case, even Trevor Manuel, the former finance minister, who is not black as such. Would you say that this would be a choice that would have been pleading to the philosophy of Nelson Mandela?
I think so, and this is an interesting thing that came up historically. President Nelson Mandela at the time, in fact, overlooked Cyril Ramaphosa. Cyril Ramaphosa was seen as a potential presidential candidate way back when. And we've spoken to, at the SABC, a former ANC MP who says that Nelson Mandela told her personally that he regretted that decision. He regretted not pushing Cyril Ramaphosa. As history played out, Thabo Mbeki became the successor, and Cyril Ramaphosa went into business. So that's how it all played out. Now, as President he comes back with huge business knowledge, and he can say that that stands him in good stead, especially when South Africa is crying out for economic growth, is crying out for leaders who understand economics that are very complicated in this new world where we are affected by what's going on in America and Europe. So he does seem to be in that tradition, especially if Madiba once said he regretted overlooking him. He seems to be a statesman. People are saying maybe when he deals with President Jacob Zuma, he will try and be conciliatory, try and take the dignified approach, which would definitely be in the steps of Nelson Mandela. However, he does have to deal with a huge debate in South Africa about whether President Nelson Mandela did enough at the time to deal with the ills of apartheid and the fact that white people held the main structures of business. And maybe he's now in a position where he has to correct the legacy of the ANC and show that he is serious about dealing with inequality and about dealing with the fact that to some extent black people, the majority, are still marginalized and excluded, some of them from the mainstream economy.
Two more questions and then I'll let you go. Let's talk about the loser who has such huge experience and would have become the first female president of the great country South Africa. Ex-wife of Jacob Zuma, makes it quite complicated. But former foreign minister and former president of the African Union would have come to this job with huge expertise internationally and would have given the gender flexibility that can make the South African narrative interesting. Why do you think that she lost, even though she lost very, very narrowly? Why did she lose?
She lost very, very narrowly. And really, I can't speculate. The ANC Women's League that supported her is hugely disappointed today. And they gave some reasons today and said that she was reduced because of gender biases to being the ex-wife, that she wasn't taken seriously. I don't know if that's the case, whether she likes it or not. Perception-wise, she was seen to be a continuation of President Jacob Zuma's policies and stances, even though she is no longer married to him. There was that perception that it would be same old, and this is when the party is at a crossroads, when it's lost a lot of support, especially in the urban areas. There's even talk of the ANC being able to lose the 2019 elections. So maybe that's why she lost, because there was an understanding that something needed to be different. When she was in the tradition of President Jacob Zuma, some speculated that he would try and avoid criminal prosecution through her, that she could become his protector. And you know, a lot of people say, what were her policies? What did she really stand for? I can say when I heard her speaking about the economy, it did sound very much like President Jacob Zuma, almost like the same people were writing their speeches. So she had to put up with that sort of perception, and I don't think she did enough to change it and say that she would be her own person, that she would help the ANC go forward and help the country go forward at a time when we are suffering from inequality, unemployment, huge economic issues.
Final question, and is that when we talk about South Africa, those of us who look at South Africa from the outside, we cannot forget the relationship between South Africa and Nelson Mandela, but we cannot also forget the relationship between South Africa and football. The Football World Cup was brilliantly hosted by South Africa. There's another World Cup in June, and both South Africa and Ghana, we are the African giants, we will not be there. How is the SABC preparing for the World Cup in June?
Oh, good question. I'm involved in economic news, so I'm not fully au fait with our plans for sports. All I can tell you is we're disappointed, and people lament Bafana's performance and sort of the history we've come from. We're always chopping and changing soccer coaches, and everybody says that's a poison chalice. So disappointment, but as the public broadcaster, we are trying to come back from also some bad publicity, and I think part of that is being the premier provider of huge sporting events. So I can't speak on behalf of the sporting or management team, but that would be the idea, that important matches on this continent are brought to the people of South Africa by the public broadcaster.
Finally, tell us, Francis, what do you do for the SABC? This is the first time we're speaking to you. What do you do over there?
I present general news every evening with my colleague Peter Ndoro. So my tradition, however, my background is strongly in business news. So we focus during prime time. We have a special half-hour segment focusing on business news and of the wild swings in the rand, like we've seen around this ANC conference. I can tell you that the rand is looking good. It's still supporting a Cyril Ramaphosa presidency, but a lot of questions about the rest of the leadership team, given that some of them were against him in the presidential race or in the run-up to the elections. So can he work with his team? And that's why we're seeing the rand not pushing higher, but it's staying at its elevated levels. So for the SABC, that's what I watch. I watch mainly the numbers.
Thank you very much. We'll be watching you tonight. Thank you, Frances. Pleasure.
Thank you, Paul.
So I guess you got a lot from that interview that our friend in South Africa, she works for the SABC, Frances. She gave us quite a lot, and we're grateful for that. I'm sure you can send your consent or ideas or queries about what she said about the South African situation to our page, Good Evening Ghana Official. We are receiving text messages right now, and we'll be able to read some of them. So Malcolm has joined me in the studio. Thank you very much, Doc, for coming. We will just wrap up the conversation quite nicely before we bring in Mr. Bernard Mornah and security expert Idris Ibad, who are both in the studio. As I was coming to look at the South Africa situation, I stumbled upon two books, and for students of international relations or people who are just interested, these are two books that you should look for. They give a very grand sort of expressions to everything that's happening in South Africa in a very holistic manner, written by two important people. Here are the books so that you can note them down and then pick it up and find it in a library, or you can go on Amazon and then get it. Do we have the books ready, Mr. Producer? Oh, wow. Oh, no, the books are not coming. That's Cyril Ramaphosa and Nelson Mandela again. Yeah, so this is one of the books. It's entitled Who Rules South Africa, and is by Martin Plott. We need to see the book as a whole so that they can see everything about it. But the book is entitled Who Rules South Africa. Let's get up to the top of the book again so we can see the name of the author. People must search with the name of the author. It's Martin Plott and Paul Holden. They wrote this book on Who Rules South Africa. I think that there's a lot in it that you can get. Also, there was a second book that we picked up as we were preparing to look at what's happening in South Africa. There's another book. It's about Cyril Ramaphosa, and is written by Butler, I believe. That's Anthony Butler, wrote a book on Cyril Ramaphosa. It's quite a hefty book. It's almost 400 pages, but it gives the details about this man who, in all possibility, could become the next president of South Africa. He's had a very long history, transcending from the left to the right in terms of economic and political philosophy in a way that many people have admired. But that's what South Africa is going to be under his thumb from 2019 and getting into the new generation. There's a lot that we have to look out for with Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. Okay, before Dr. Malcolm gives us his assessment of the situation, here is the South African anthem celebrating Cyril Ramaphosa's rise from trade unionist, from prisoner to trade unionist, from anti-apartheid campaigner to prisoner, trade unionist, rich man, and then now maybe president. Cyril Ramaphosa. 19 minutes to the top of the hour at 10 o'clock. Now, I like Cyril Ramaphosa, Dr. Malcolm, because at least Africa will have a president who was rich before he became president. Cyril is almost a billionaire from chairing all those boards, from telecoms to mining, and from benefiting from black empowerment. He's already wealthy. We'll see how he'll deal with the thorny question of corruption. What was your impression before the vote? Did you think that he will win ahead of Jacob Zuma's ex-wife, who has a lot of political clout because she was foreign minister and because she was president of the African Union?
Okay, thank you very much. And when we were waiting for the election results, we thought that he's going to win landslide. But to our disappointment, it was only 179 vote difference, which means that there is a major issue in ANC. Dramini Zuma still have a lot of support from the base and also among the female, activists within the party, which tells us that it's not going to be an easy issue with Ramaphosa because they still have the old party hawks within, which is going to create a lot of problem for Ramaphosa.
Does it mean that according to the procedure, which Frances told me in the Skype interview, that calling upon the ANC leadership to call out Jacob Zuma out of the presidency to be replaced with Cyril before the election of 2019 could be difficult?
That would be a very dicey issue because if you look at it, David, Mabuza was elected a vice president, which is an ally to Zuma, which is going to be another difficult issue for Ramaphosa to deal with, which means that it's not over yet. We don't know what's going to happen. It happened during Thabo Mbeki, when in 2008 he was recalled when Zuma was elected the leader of the party. Similar thing can come in if, in case, Ramaphosa was able to use his shrewd, negotiation skills to be able to penetrate into ANC. And that is what we are looking at. Because the rate of alleged corruption within the ANC is very alarming. And Ramaphosa is being seen as somebody who is going to bring change into the party. And a lot of blacks who have been marginalized are looking up to him to see those changing coming on board.
In terms of corruption, as the point I made earlier, would it make a change that here is Cyril, who is already very, very wealthy before he becomes president? Will that portend any difference? Will corruption watchers be satisfied with that kind of situation?
That is what he fought on. Ramaphosa fought on corruption, anti-corruption. He said that he's going to make sure that he actually clean ANC from political maneuvering, racketeering, in terms of money laundering and also fraud. These are some of the issues are very rife within his campaign. And we are all looking at, all the political pundits and international experts are looking what's going to happen within the short period, whether he's going to continue the crusade and try to recall Zuma, and he will become the president of South Africa.
While Cyril started his political life as an anti-apartheid campaigner and prisoner and all of that, and also as a trade unionist, he's credited with putting together the mining trade union of South Africa, which became very powerful. But he sat on the board of Lonmin, the mining giant, when the Maracana murder occurred. And for viewers who are hearing for the first time, Maracana murder is when some miners were actually killed by some of these conglomerates. He sat on the board of one of these big companies. So, in effect, he's the best example of a transition from Marxist socialism to become a citadel, a person representing the citadel of capitalism. If he becomes president of South Africa, we can safely say South Africa will be inching towards capitalist policies. Now, that's not going to take care of the ordinary black people. Do you think that kind of situation, as Francis alleged to, will empower and give impetus to the Julius Malema philosophy?
That's a very interesting question, because many are those blacks who have been marginalized who think that this is their era to be able to make some changes. Others also think that there's still continuity. Ramaphosa is not bringing any change because he's a wealthy, billionaire actually, because if you go into his history, he made a lot of fortune on the mining companies in South Africa. He also made a lot of fortune in the telecom sector, especially MTN, and he made his money. He's now in a complete establishment. So many are those who feel that he will not resonate with the grassroots people or the black people who are the the ghettos in Soweto and other parts of South Africa. So they don't see any change coming soon. That is why if you look at the trend of the votes, some of them feel that, Dlamini Zuma will be able to bring change to South Africa rather than wealthy Ramaphosa.
Do you think votes buying, final question, do you think votes buying may have been responsible for his narrow win?
In fact, that was some of the issues that came out, and it's yet to be investigated. People were disenchanted. They said that no, they were not looking at this. They were all gearing towards Dlamini Zuma. But also, take note that other people also feel that Dlamini Zuma will bring continuity to his ex-husband, that is Zuma, and he will be able to shield, according to the interview with the South African, journalist. He made it very clear. So it shows that, the whole South Africa ANC party is in a dilemma now. They don't know what's going to happen.
Okay, we'll leave it there, Dr. Malcolm. Thank you very much. Doc is from the Ghana Telecom University. As we take a break to bring in the other story, Togoland local story of Bernard Mornah and Ibad Ibrahim, his security and international relations expert. I like the South African song so much, and I think some of you too like it. Let's go back, and producer, let's go back and show the montage with Cyril Ramaphosa and the South African song. After that, we'll take a break. Bernard Mornah will join us in the studio shortly. And Bernard and Ibad Ibrahim. Let's hear it and get back shortly.
We should go to Malawi.
All new What's Up Africa from the warm heart of Africa.
Which kind of warm? It's hot, oh!
What's Up Africa? It's the news, but not as you know it. Watch What's Up Africa every Wednesday and Friday on Focus on Africa.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the self-proclaimed king of primetime, officially the youngest old man in Ghana, the man who says old age is an option, the man who says he's got swag in his jeans. The man is here today. Sit back, kick up your feet, chillax, and get ready for GH's sizzling primetime show. Now, GH, put your hands together and show some love for the alleged king of primetime, KSM.
The KSM Show.
Your Saturday morning just got better on a whole new and exciting morning ride.
Let's chat about life's little moments that fascinate us and real-life experiences.
Kesua Oforiwa Adom, that's a beautiful name.
Who is an international relations and security expert. Gentlemen, good evening. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr.
Good evening, Ghana. Thank you.
For having us.
Bernard Mornah, you were arrested by the police. Tell us the story. What happened?
I fail to accept your description of me as controversial. I'm a peace-loving Bernard Mornah, not controversial Bernard Mornah. On the 5th of December 2017, the Ghana-Togo Solidarity Movement wrote to the police through the Inspector General and informed them of our intention to embark on a rally to draw attention on the debilitating situation in Togo. It was not until the 15th of December, around 1:32 p.m., that I got a call from CSP Kwesi Ofori, who happens to be the Director of Operations of the Greater Accra region.
CSP?
Yes, Chief Superintendent of Police, I'm told. And that, I hope I got the title right. And when he called me, I communicated to our spokesperson that we've received a call from the inspector, the Greater Accra Command. He was out of town doing some other things in the mobilization. So I had to dash on behalf of the team to meet with the regional command. We had a fruitful discussion, and they were only concerned that they do not have sufficient numbers to come for the event because, according to them, about 1,500 of their personnel are on promotion course, and it's giving a lot of stress to them. And I told them that if there is crisis today, the police will respond to. So if it matters to you, you can even recall a few of them from promotion course to come and do this. So I thanked them and left so that they could come the next day. The next day, around 8 thereabout, CSP of Kwesi Ofori came again to the grounds. We had a lovely chat, and he told me he was going to the Nima police station and to return. He went, didn't come himself, but 3 Navara pickups came up with police in the vehicles. They came and did some reconnaissance and went and parked for about some 20 minutes.
Where is this grounds?
Kawukudi Park.
Kawukudi Park?
Yes.
Near the mosque?
Yes, just
near
the mosque, yes.
Okay.
And the 3 vans left. Then a white Tundra with riot police came, also did some reconnaissance and left.
So you were gathering there to address people?
To just address. It was a rally. It was not a march. And in my letter, it was explicitly stated to the police. And when I had a discussion with them, I told them it was not a demonstration, it was not a procession, it was not a protestation, it was a rally that was going to be done in situ.
Who and who were going to address the rally?
Ibad Ibrahim was going to speak. I was going to speak. The Economic Fighters League, led by Ernesto Yabua, were going to speak. We had invited the Socialist Forum. So about 5 different persons were going to speak.
This is Ghana-Togo Solidarity
Movement. And so when all this was done, suddenly, when Ibad Ibrahim just arrived, he just pulled a chair to sit by me, and the police just came with about 5 vehicles and scattered from the vehicles and started running after people, dismantling our gadgets and our organization and disrupting everything. So I stood up and said, what is this? What is happening? Paul, I was lifted like a cow meant for the slaughterhouse and thrown in the bucket of the pickup. 2 policemen with guns on top of me. And when I pulled out my phone to call my lawyer, they said, put off the phone or we'll blow the hell out of you. They took me and others through the one-way with their sirens. You know how if the police want to dramatize? Ping, ping, ping in the traffic. And people turn around and it is Bernard Mornah that they have put in like some notorious armed robber that they have found in the jungle that they are bringing to town, and rushed us to the Nima police station. Upon arrival, I asked what our crime was.
Did they arrest Ibad as well?
Oh, quickly.
Was he also thrown into the dramatic way that you have described?
No, he was lucky. I saw that they lifted him and threw him in front of the pickup. So I like...
So his was not as dramatic as yours?
As for me, I don't know what I had done. But Ibad maybe, because of his peaceful nature, maybe, and his smooth talk.
So what happened at the Nima police station?
At the Nima police station, what is my charge? They told me that they are now going to sit and come and tell me what my charge is. From 9 o'clock till around 7.
9 a.m.?
9 a.m.
This is when you were picked up?
Yes.
Your rally was a morning event?
It was a morning event. And indeed, I had gone for this rally so that immediately it was done, I could go for my friend Kaba, his funeral. And from my friend's funeral, I was to go to the airport to catch a flight to go to Kumasi to join my party members to solidarize with the MPP at the Delegates Congress.
So and this was Friday?
This was Saturday.
Oh, all this Saturday?
Yes, so I was to do all 3 things in a day. And I could not go for the funeral of my friend. I could not go to join the MPP in their solidarity. I was picked up as if I had committed some crime, and they could not even tell me what the charge was.
So where are we now on the matter?
Up to today, the police could not charge us for anything unless, apart from telling us that we did an unlawful assembly. And I asked them, really, after I've notified you more than 11 days to the event, you still come and describe it as unlawful assembly? Which law is the police operating with?
So what's the state of affairs right now?
I have instructed my lawyers to sue the police for the trauma that they have caused me, for the degradation that they have brought to my life, for the battery.
What's the battery?
Throwing you into the bucket of picker, physically handling you is what?
Okay.
I don't know. You are a lawyer.
So let's get to the details of the political nature of the event that you were putting together. Ibad, it is Ghana-Togo solidarity.
Yes, Mr. Otchere.
Togo means what?
Togo means a lot to us.
No, I mean, when you say Ghana-Togo solidarity, so I know what Ghana is. That's you. Togo is who?
The Togolese element is we are part of the Committee of Nations. That is why when something happens even in the United States, there are ripple effects across the world. Even on the case of Rohingya, we even did a demonstration. Even tomorrow, we are going to do a demonstration on Donald Trump's declaration of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
You are against that?
We are against it.
Okay.
So human rights.
So who are the elements of Togo? Is it the Togolese government? Is it Togolese civil society? Is it the Togolese opposition? Who are the Togolese in this solidarity?
Our neighbors. In fact, but for the marginal boundaries that have been created by our former colonial masters, Mr. Otchere, Togolese are not different from Ghanaians.
No, you're not addressing my question. So it's Ghanaian sort of civil society. So you are civil society, Bernard is political party, the Socialist Forum is civil society.
Let me put it this way for you. Let me put it this way. You are trying to bulk us or push us to one side of the Togolese people. We are saying that there are human rights atrocities
in Togo. If there are both sides, you can tell me. I guess
there are human rights atrocities, and we have not taken side. All we are saying is that the situation in Togo,
I just want to know,
we have not invited any collaborator from Togo.
Mr. Otchere,
because you said Ghana-Togo.
Yes.
I think your question is intelligible to me. We can say Ghana-Burmese solidarity, and tomorrow what we are going to do is a quarterly of civil society organizations, Ghana-Palestine Solidarity Movement. That doesn't mean there is an element of, Palestinians within the group.
Okay, I get it.
In fact, when we were solidarizing...
So you are solidarizing with the Palestinian people?
You just did an ANC interview.
Yes.
When the whole of Africa was solidarizing with South Africa during apartheid, we didn't need Mandela to come here.
But that's because the issue in South Africa was clear. You are either for apartheid or against it. It's not complicated.
And the issue in Togo is also unique, because pregnant women, innocent children, old people cannot lead their lives because of the brutality of the military in the country, and we can't sit aloof.
Okay, so your concern is about human rights violations in Togo,
yes,
allegedly perpetrated by the Togolese government.
Exactly.
This is your concern.
Exactly.
Okay, I get it clearly. So you wanted to do a rally in Ghana to bring the attention of, is it the Ghanaian government? Or is it the ECOWAS government, or is it Ghanaian civil society? What did you want to do?
To bring the attention of the international community. Ghana is quite in a complicated situation. Togo is quite a next-door neighbor, and Alpha Condé was the one serving as an arbiter in this. But Macron has asked our own president, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, in whose foreign policy prowess, I believe,
He is now the lead arbiter. So therefore, we were neutral people who felt it was necessary to prod the international community further to do more than it is doing. Because in conflict resolution, the first thing you would want to do is effect a cessation of hostilities. Go to La Paz, go to the Mamobi Enclave, go to Dome Plateau. There are loads of young Togolese that are running from repression. And therefore, they are going to add up to the unemployment we have in this country. They are going to add up to the security challenges we have. So therefore, I think Ghana has a moral responsibility to do something to end, you know, the repression that is ongoing in Togo.
It's interesting. Given that President Akufo-Addo has been asked by the French government to do this, was your timing not... couldn't your timing be interpreted as an embarrassment to him? Because you could send him a note, you could send him a communique, you could send him a letter and express satisfaction with his appointment, congratulate him for it, and indicate to him the key points that he needs to look at in this regard, rather than throw up a demonstration or a rally and talk about it.
That's a very good point. I don't know where Mr. Mornah stands on this issue. He is a politician, I'm not. I'm a peace builder and my operations go beyond Africa. They go further afield into other parts of the world. But fundamentally, the first thing you need to do is to make sure innocent people are not, you know, killed. Innocent people are not maimed. So it's a thing of pride for us that not only Ibn Chambers is a representative of the United Nations Secretary General, we have our own president, His Excellency Nana Addo, leading this because he's strongly bilateral. He plays a father figure to Foy and Singbe and potentially to the opposition forces in the country. So he has a certain clout. And it's a thing of pride for me as a Ghanaian. But I believe whatever the terms of reference of His Excellency the President, the first thing we need to see is that innocent people that are being repressed should be given some reprieve. All other diplomatic
So I'm saying you could have
issues,
told him that in a communique, rather than doing a rally.
You know, when it comes to activism, Mr. Otchere, sometimes paperwork doesn't help too much. When you pour out onto the street, when you give human rights speeches similar to those we were going to give, I believe you give the international community the needed nudge to treat the issues with the needed urgency. And at the end of the day, nobody is picking sides. His Excellency is working as a neutral arbiter, and we want to see peace in a neighboring country because anything that happens in Togo could have spillover effects on the Republic of Ghana.
But this is not the first time Togo has had political crisis. The arrival of Foreign Singbe himself occasioned a lot of political instability. During the period of his father, Foreign Singbe, we know about the threat he felt from the Olympians consistently for the longest time. It even affected his international relations with Ghana because his regime thought that Ghana was against him. And for many years that continued between the old Yadima and Flight Lieutenant Rawlins. There was sufficient friction in the way in which they related internationally. Given all of this kind of history, don't you think that calling a rally, a public rally, and to make political speeches would have inflamed the situation in the minds of the average Ghanaian?
Paul, you are a student of research. I'm sure that on the Saturday that we were having our event in Ghana, you would have noticed that in Togo itself, in Lomé, there were a series of demonstrations. That was demonstration. In Nigeria, Abuja, and in Lagos, and in Ouagadougou, in Burkina Faso, there were demonstrations. They were not rallies. And to that extent, what it means is that there is rapid support and solidarity across the continent that look into the situation in Togo. And I do know that President Akufo-Addo listened to news more and listened to sometimes radio. That's how come he appointed his central regional minister and told us that anytime his wife listened to the central regional minister, he will not allow him to rest. And so it means that he listened to news. Rallies are one way of prompting the president. That contrary to what your security couples will be telling you, there is the other side of it. You know that. And the president will take that and factor that into determining the kind of strategy he will deploy in order to bring about an amicable resolution, a peaceful resolution in the case of Togo. Why are we here? President Nana Akufo-Addo, President Buhari, and many others went to UN, and they were talking about the bestial treatment of Rohingyas in Myanmar. They were decrying the atrocities meted out on minority groups and what they are going through, and nearby Togo. You see, and I say Togo because we know what the war in Liberia did to Ghana. That people moved from Liberia. They didn't stop in Nigeria. They didn't stop in Benin. They didn't stop in Togo. They came to Ghana. And you know that in the Bujumburam area, Liberians virtually became landlords selling our lands because they lived there. And so if you know where Liberia is, and to move to Liberia from Ghana, you have to pass Togo, you have to pass Benin, you have to pass Nigeria before you enter Liberia. And yet when there was...
Liberia, you get to Ghana before you go to Nigeria?
No.
I think so.
No, check your map well.
So Liberia,
because you don't drive.
Liberia and Cote d'Ivoire.
You don't drive. You don't drive.
You can help us with that.
No, you don't drive. I do drive. I've driven around the West African
From Liberia, you get to Ghana before Nigeria.
I said that you go through Togo, go to Benin, go to Nigeria, and enter Liberia.
No, I mean when you are leaving Liberia to Ghana.
I'm saying that.
You don't get to Nigeria first. Nigeria is behind us, on the
I
right.
said that you take through...
So Liberia, Cote d'Ivoire, and Ghana.
I say go through Togo, go through...
No, you don't need Togo.
Why? Togo. Why are you choosing for me the route that I have to...
Can you pull up the West African map?
Why are you pulling the...
Can you pull up the West African map? Let's have a look at it.
Yeah, understand. So
we can all learn
in
where Liberia
case,
is and where Ghana
Liberia is farther from Ghana. And yet, when there was crisis, the people ran to Ghana. What about where if you spit, the sputum will fall into Togo? As we speak, informally, and you know this more than me, that the number of Togolese that are here in Ghana, if you are looking for those who are tiling for us, if you are looking for those who are doing POP and many others, they've all come from...
Well, your map is too broad, but anyway, we can look at it. Can you take off your Good Evening Ghana stuff, please, on the left? I needed a West African map, but we can manage with this. Okay.
This one is which one?
This one doesn't even show Liberia.
No, so from Ghana.
So that's Guinea. I need West African map if you
that's
can.
West Africa. You can see.
Political.
You can see.
So
that.
Guinea is on the left, bottom left of your screen.
Yes.
After Guinea is Liberia in there. It's not named because it's not a political map. Then next is Cote d'Ivoire. It's
from
not
Nigeria.
Named.
No, I can see all that. I mean, if you don't know the maps, from Ghana you go to Togo. Togo is on the right.
Yes, from Ghana on the right is Togo.
Then you go to Benin,
then Nigeria. No, Liberia is all the way.
Liberia is down, then Nigeria.
No, Liberia is on the left.
No.
I need West African map producer. West African map political. Just Google West African map political. The names of the countries.
You understand? So,
But you couldn't help me with that. I'm quite unhappy with that.
No, but if he's not a geographer.
Yes, Liberia is
Mr.
Yeah, Liberia. No, definitely, it's very, very obvious.
But fundamentally,
no. So the point is the only countries that divide Liberia and Ghana is Cote d'Ivoire. Yes. That's a matter of fact.
Yes,
but you gotta get. Then when you have Ghana, then there's Togo, there's Benin, then there's Nigeria, there's Cameroon.
All of that is to the east.
Yes.
So this is on the other side.
So please tell Chairman that Nigeria is not part of the conversation.
I think
it's part of the conversation.
Geography is not too important. Let's stick to the germane issues of pregnant women that are suffering, the aged farmers that can't go to their farms and all that. These are the, germane issues I think we should concentrate on. And so therefore, fundamentally, I think His Excellency, our President, is doing his best. And as neighbors, I believe we need to throw our weight behind him and see an amicable resolution to the crisis. But, Mr. Otchere, since my teens, I was watching you discussing liberties, freedom, democracy. This is a family that is dynastic. It's ruled for half a century.
Yeah, it's quite worrying anyway.
Yeah. So if there are dissenting voices that need to be heard, we can't take any position. But I believe that His Excellency will factor in that. So that the way we've enjoyed, change in governments all the time, the good people of Togo can do
So
that.
is it your view from your expert position that Foreign Assembly must step down at this time?
I don't think so.
You think he must continue as president?
As a peace builder, you don't pick sides. That is why he says, Excellency's, term of reference or portfolio at this particular juncture.
That's Foreign Assembly on your screen, by the way. The Togolese president, son of the old president. He's on your screen right now. But
he's done 12 years now.
He's done 12 years.
His father did 38 years.
Yeah.
Half a century.
That's him. 12 years already. That's quick.
His father did 38, and he's just done 12 years.
This is the kind of thing that worries me a bit as a journalist writing the story on the sidelines of the event. International people, you have to state the fact. If foreign assembly has overstayed his welcome, he must go. But here you are saying that.
You should have asked me and not him on this man.
And we have to go with the terms of reference. And that's what we did in Liberia forever and ever and ever. And we couldn't.
No, that's what we were doing in Burkina Faso until the people exploded.
A decision was taken that Charles Taylor should be arrested. And after that, Liberia is after elections, on course, they're having another election. So you international people, what's the point? A foreign assembly has overstayed his welcome. Tell us and tell the terms of reference that he must step down for elections to occur. But you don't take sides. You meet the opposition here, you meet the things here, you meet the opposition here, meet these guys here. From the time that I was a child, the UNITA fight against MPLA. Yeah. That's what was happening. Yeah. You meet UNITA until they killed Savimbi. Yeah. You know, savagely, they killed Savimbi. Yeah. And then the matter was sort of solved. So why don't you say that if foreign assembly is time for him to step down, it's time for him to step down?
Conflicts are not too easy to resolve the way you think. It's a bit simplistic to think you can just wave a magic wand or chant an abracadabra, then issues get resolved. Ask yourself, why is it that the committee of eminent chiefs trying to negotiate a peaceful solution to Dagbon? Why can't they come out and state that this person is right?
That's more complicated.
Togo is as much complicated as well. And the job of the president, our president, is quite a difficult one. So therefore, fundamentally, I believe...
So you don't know what the solution ought to be?
The solution has to be one of two things. Is either there is pragmatic constitutional review for them to put a cap on how many terms foreign assembly can do.
Will foreign qualify to enjoy those terms? Assuming they have a constitutional review now and they say that each president must do 2 terms of 4 years each. So foreign has already done 12. Will that factor in?
But if they want to do it retrospectively, then he has to go in the next election.
Which cannot pass laws retrospectively.
No, but that has always been the case from 1992. These are on the books. These are on the books already. They just need to be implemented.
What does the Togolese constitution currently say?
It says you can't do more than 2 terms.
You cannot do more than 2 terms. Has he done more than 2 terms?
And technically,
has he done more than 2 terms?
Yes, he was foisted on the people in 2005.
Without election?
Without an election.
No, and there was election immediately.
Yeah, so there was election immediately, which he won.
Yeah,
so he was an interim leader.
Yes. Then
but at the point of the death election, at the point of the death of the old man, what did the Constitution say?
The Constitution has always been, as a result of the dictates of the 1992 Constitution, that you can't go beyond 2 terms.
No, so when a president dies, what happens in the Togolese Constitution?
It means that you need to hold fresh elections.
No vice president takes over?
No.
Okay, so they did that. The military put him in as an interim, and they held fresh elections, and he won it.
He won in 2005. Yeah. 2005, 2010, 2010, 2015.
So after 5, the next election was 10. They have a 5-year term.
Yeah, they do.
So he won the 10.
Exactly.
That takes him to 15.
Exactly.
We are in 17.
Yes, so
he's still there.
Yeah, so this is his 3rd term.
Did he conduct elections in 15?
Yes.
He participated and won?
Yes.
That means his participation was illegal?
Yes, it was illegal.
So it's not complicated.
You see,
he has carried over an illegitimate tenure.
And exactly, so that is why I'm saying what we are witnessing today. These are pent-up feelings of frustration.
Can we get to the law and say that, look, Chief, you have overstayed your welcome?
It's not as easy as you think. In the case of the Gambia, Yahya Jammeh was, he continued pushing the goalpost until eventually an election was held. He conceded and he wanted to do a detour. The international community said, no, we are even deploying soldiers.
Even if Yahya Jammeh had not conceded, the ECOWAS soldiers would have taken him out.
Yeah, so...
That's it, full stop.
Yes.
So in the Gambia situation, the position was taken that Yahya Jammeh is wrong. He has lost the election, we go and take him out.
Yes. So,
that's it. Okay, Foreign Assembly has conducted an illegal election in 2015 that he has illegitimately participated. He should step aside.
Yeah, I think the people didn't have the courage.
It's not the people, it's the international community. The people cannot do that. In Gambia, they didn't do it. It's the international community that did it.
When you look at the ECOWAS Charter, it has an element of non-interference in the internal affairs of nation states or sovereign states. So therefore, if there are no bubbling problems, sometimes it becomes very difficult.
More than bubbling. That's why you were thrown into the police car.
So I believe that His Excellency has quite a complicated job to do. That is why I agree with you.
Instead of holding the rally, maybe you should have sent him a communique. He's been foreign minister, a very experienced and successful one. So yes, you would understand it. But if you hold a demonstration right under for want of a better way, right under his territory, and you know that he has been appointed to mediate. He has been appointed just for weeks to mediate something. And in his own country, people are on the streets shouting themselves hoarse about the situation in Togo. Let me come to you, Bernard, though. You seem to agree with me on the point that Yadema should be told to get out.
I don't think that there is any further from the truth as you have stated. See, his father doctored the Constitution after the Constitution reforms indicated that there must be 1 5-year term, 2 5-year terms, and after which you should go. The father decided to ignore that and to go and claim that Parliament has changed it. He can run for life until he died. All that the opposition and civil society is saying is that return to the 1992 constitutional order of 2 terms, 5 years each, so that the process can continue. 4 has done 2 terms already. He has moved away from the RTP and formed a new political party to contest 2015 elections. And then he said that he did not contest on the ticket of the old political party, so he started afresh. And
well, but does the law allow that?
No.
You're sure?
Yes.
Maybe it does.
It doesn't.
You're sure?
It doesn't. So anytime you manipulate the system to bring about this. Now, the frustrations is that today as we speak, there was demonstration even today. And it is not just in one part of Togo. It's almost every place. And people, after demonstration, are not safe going back home. So people...
They're pouring into Ghana.
Yes. Most of them, if they cannot get back to their various individual homes, they just sit on the Okada, as we call it. They jump and they are in Ghana.
Then a flower?
Which are flower? Go through Chiripone and see. Go through
Samboba.
Go through Bumpurugu and see. You are talking of flower because it's a known border. They're cut and Togo all the way into northern regions. So people just enter through the Chiripone zone, as you know. People enter through Kwekpra in the northern region. People enter through Bumpurugu. And so all that, you have a swelling of many Togolese into Ghana, simply because we are sitting down and we are pretending, and you are saying that, oh, it's not easy to manage this situation. It is better to tell Four in his face that enough than to say that let's manage the situation, and before we can realize there is a degeneration. For look, if you have a spring and you press the spring hard, it gets to a time the spring will have to leave you. And when it's going, you know the force with which it goes.
Yeah, it goes out like a bullet.
Yes. And I think that if we are here and we are micromanaging and thinking that, look, some diplomacy can help solve the problem, and we are not dealing with it frontally, we will wake up to maybe a worse situation than it pertained in Burkina Faso.
Wow. So what's the next step, actually, Bernard, Mornah?
Well, we will not stop because there have been the police brutalization on us. We'll continue to raise awareness about the sordid situation in Togo to let the international community understand. And see, just after that, I got calls from Amnesty International. I got calls from embassies, political decks of various embassies, who had a chat with me to really appreciate what transpired for the kind of arrest and the manner in which it was done. And I don't think that my intention was to dip Ghana's image that low. But the actions of the police is bringing the human records of government to the fore. And they should be careful that sometimes your actions can make a government either locally and internationally, or even compromise the integrity of a nation. What they did to us was uncalled for. We had informed the police appropriately. I just can't fathom how a country... Look, I participated in demonstrations in this country alongside President Nana Akufo-Addo when I was a young boy. So,
but you are still young.
I'm not a young boy, man.
He's young, but he's no longer a boy.
You understand? And today, the man that I call demonstration Hene is in power, and we cannot mobilize a rally, not even a demonstration. It doesn't speak well. And so those who are there and they're describing themselves as powers from above or orders from above, They've not helped President Nana Akufo-Addo, because these institutions that are calling to be able to get into what really happened for us to be picked in the vulgar manner that we were picked are not going to write good reports for Ghana. The embassies will not have good records for Ghana. Amnesty International will certainly not give credit for the kind of treatment that we're treated. And you know, I keep insisting, granted that maybe I am known as an open politician, what of him, who is a peace ambassador, who is an international relation expert of no small repute? You pick him to and yank him into the police station as if you don't know what is happening in this country.
I think we're really sorry about that, and I hope that the police can tell us in the next few days what actually happened and why they needed to do that.
No,
but
Paul, they have come with some cock and bull story that they had information that some people were coming to do counter demonstration. So if people were coming to do counter rally, do you come to stop me who has lawfully notified you? And assuming you even want to stop me, do you treat me like I'm the most hardened criminal?
The manner that you are describing is horrendous. And
you can't do that and come and tell me that.
It shouldn't be.
And come and tell. For if you sit down here and you don't appreciate that the police is getting out of hand, maybe tomorrow.
I agree with you. I think on this matter, we all have to join hands
treat you worse
and criticize the way that they treated you. Irrespective of whether you're a politician or you're not a politician, it's a human rights matter. Our police must handle people well, and that is a mark of development. And we have been running, what, 8-7 elections since 1992. We are Africa's democratic stability. This is not the time for police to carry people and throw them because they want to hold a rally that they had notified the police of. I think that we condemn that in no mean words. It is condemnable, and we hope that the police will issue an apology to the persons that were affected, unless, of course, the police have some information
Chairman says
that we don't know about.
Chairman says he's going to press charges.
Yeah.
And that is bad PR for a state institution like the Ghana Police Service.
We hope that it can be resolved because there are nice people at the police. The IGP, Asante Apitu, the name that you mentioned, Kwesi Fori, has been a friend of the media for a very long time.
Let me tell you, the IGP is a friend that I call even before he became IGP. And I'm sure that he understands the regional commander, who is a lawyer of no small standing. But for them to tell me that instruction from above and act in the manner they acted, the institution itself is what I'm suing, not their individuals.
I regret this very much. And so, are you doing another demonstration, by the way?
It's not a demonstration, it's a rally.
Calling another rally?
Yes.
Okay, when?
We planned it for 25th of December, but my attention has been drawn by some of the organizers that it is the birthday of Jesus Christ, and they will want to participate in that occasion.
What about this? What about this? You're free to demonstrate, and I think that, well, what can I say? It's 10:25. We couldn't have a discussion on the Europa. Maybe next Thursday or after Christmas, we can have a look at it, the High Court decision. The NDC's Kofi Adam says that they'll be going to challenge that matter. But thank you very much for coming, Bernard. We are sorry about what happened to you. And thank you very much for viewers for watching.
Let me congratulate you. I didn't know that you were appointed to serve the National Communications Authority. It is good to serve our nation, and I congratulate you.
I thank you belatedly, though. Thank you. Bernard is my comrade. I'm comrade on the right and capitalist on the left sometimes. Thanks for watching, viewers, and enjoy yourself. Thursday, don't miss our show. It's a big Christmas show coming up from this studio. Political Christmas, I call it. Thanks for watching, and good night.